Today, we are going to discuss another OOPS principle, that is abstraction, right? Abstraction is also one of the fundamental OOPS principle, and also many students and many beginners level developers are getting confused related to this abstraction principle, and they are actually getting confused exactly to understand what is abstraction and what is encapsulation, what is the difference between them, right? So they are getting confused with this. So, our today's session, we are going to clarify all these things, right? We'll discuss what exactly abstraction principle is. We'll discuss some real-time examples of abstraction so that you can understand the abstraction principle very easily, right? Then we will see how to implement abstraction principle in C Sharp. What are the different mechanism available in C Sharp to implement the abstraction principle? We'll see how to implement abstraction principle using interface. We'll see how to implement abstraction principle using abstract classes and abstract methods. Then we will see what is the differences between encapsulation and abstraction principle, and we will see what are the advantages we are getting by using the abstraction principle. All these things now we are going to cover. Okay, so now let us start with the basic definition. What is abstraction, right? As you can see here, I'm writing the definition: the process of representing the essential features without including the background details is called abstraction. This is the book definition. In your academic, if you are reading, if you are going through C++, or if you are going through Java, then you might be know this definition. The process of representing the essential features without including the background details is called abstraction, right? What it means, now we can say that it's a process of defining a class by providing necessary details to call the object operation. By hiding its implementation details, it's called abstraction. It means we need to expose what is necessary and compulsory, and we need to hide the unnecessary thing from outside the wall, right? Right. To understand this, what I can do is I can create a console application, right? And by using that console application, I will explain you this concept, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm creating a console application, selecting the Visual C Sharp, I'm selecting console of .NET framework, I'm providing the name as abstraction, abstraction demo. Give me 1 minute, guys. Yeah. So you can see. So what exactly abstraction means? Suppose I'm writing console.writeLine method. So this writeLine method is nothing but it's an object operation. Object operation means it's nothing but a method, right? Now what I'm writing some statement here. Hello, Shisha, right? Now if you look at this method, writeLine, this method is designed or developed by someone else. Who am I? I am the user. I'm going to use this method. What is needed to know me about this method? How to use this method? What this method taking as a parameter? What this method is going to return, right? If you go to the definition, you will only see what this method signature, right? What is the method signature means? What is the name of the method? What are the parameter this method is taking? And what this method is going to return? Do you have any idea how this method is implemented? What are the code written inside this method? No, we do not have any idea. Why? Because this is not required to me. Na? Who am I? I am the user of this method. Then what should be known to me? What is the signature? Right? What is the signature means? What is the name of the method? What are the different types of parameter this method is taking? And what is the return type of this method, so that if required, I can store the return value. So these things are essential for me. So these things should be exposed by the method, right? But what are the unnecessary things? The unnecessary things for me is the implementation details. How this method is implemented, I do not have any idea. Even I don't record how the method is implemented. What is required? I just need to use this method. Na? Wow, what logic they have written, how they have written, that is not needed by me. So this is nothing but abstraction. Now, if you go to the definition, it's saying that it is a process of defining a class by providing necessary details to call object operation method, right? So if you want to call a method, what is necessary thing or what is mandatory things you should know. The mandatory thing is the name of the method. The mandatory thing is the number of parameter this method is taking. The mandatory thing is what is the return type of the method. The mandatory thing it is whether it is a static method or a non-static method, so that I can invoke the method by using either the class name or I need to create an object. These are the mandatory things, right? What is not mandatory things? The implementation details. How the method logic is written, that is not important for me. That should not be known to me. So we need to hide those things, right? By hiding its implementation details. Implementation details means how the method logic is written. That should be hide. So this is nothing but abstraction. You can see we need to expose what is necessary and compulsory, and we need to hide the unnecessary things from outside the world. So the user of our class should know the necessary things or compulsory things. The unnecessary things, the user should not know. We need to hide the unnecessary things. We only need to expose the necessary and mandatory things, and we need to hide the unnecessary things, right? Now, come to the second point. Programmatically, we can define abstraction as the process of hiding implementation details of the object's feature and showing only the essential feature or information to the user. What it means, what we have already discussed now. It is a process of hiding implementation details of an object's feature. Object feature means object method. Whatever method you have written inside your class, you need to hide the implementation details, showing only the essential information. What essential information means here is what is the name of the method. Suppose you have one class. Inside your class, you have declared, you might be declared many number of methods, right? If the user of your class want to consume your object feature means he should know what is the name of your method. He should know the services that what you are providing, right? What services you are providing, the user should know. But how the services are implemented, that should be hidden to the user, right? Services in the sense functions. Function, you can say also method, function, services, everything is going to be same. What are the services you are providing, that is important to the user. How you are implementing, that is important to you, not to the user. User doesn't care how you implement the service. What user care, what are the services you are providing. That is what is nothing but abstraction. So abstraction let you focus more on what an object does rather than how it does. As a user, right? As a user, what abstraction principle gives me, what an object have, right? So that I need to know, but how it does the things, that I should not know, right? That should be hidden. So that means what are the services as available as part of the class, that we need to expose, but how the services are implemented, that we need to hide. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So abstraction means as part of your class, what are the services available, what are the methods available, that you need to expose to the user. But how the services, how the methods are implemented, that you should not expose to the user. This is nothing but abstraction in simple word. Now if you take the real-time examples, then you will get some better idea, right? I have written some example so that you will understand this very easily, right? When you log in into any social networking site, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, right? What we generally do, we just enter our user ID and password and then click on the login button. And once you click on the login button, we are logging into the website. Do you have any idea how they process your data? What logic or algorithm they have written for validating the user and all these things? No, we do not have any idea. Do you have any idea whenever you are entering your username and password in the Facebook, and once you click on the sign in button, what logic they have written behind the scene, what programming language they have written behind the scene, where their database server is, where their API server is, what SQL statement they have written to validating your data. Do you have any idea? No, we do not have any idea. So this information is abstracted or hidden from us since they are not essential to us now. What I should know by knowing what logic they have written in validating the user credential, that is not needed to me. So as a user of your Facebook, I do not have any idea how internally or how processing they have done behind the scene. So this is nothing but abstraction. If you take another real-time example, it might be your ATM machine, right? We all use ATM machine for different kind of operations like cash withdrawal, like money transfer. If you want, you can also do a mini statement kind of functionality, right, in our daily life. But we do not know internally what things are happening inside the ATM machine when we insert an ATM card for performing different kind of operations. Do you have any idea? Whenever you enter the ATM card into the ATM machine, and whenever you enter your PIN number, do you have any idea what they have processing in the behind? Information like, do you have any idea information like where the server is, where the database server is, what programming they use to write the logic, how they are validating the data, how they are validating your card number, whether your card number is valid or not, whether your ATM card is valid or not, right? How they are implementing the logic to perform different kind of operations like cash withdrawal, money transfer, retrieving mini statement, right? What SQL statement they have written to validate your card details, or what SQL statement they have written to do all these kind of operations. Nothing is known to us, right? All these things are only hidden from us. What they provide as part of the ATM machine is that the services only. What are the services as a user we can do? Only those things they have exposed. Services like cash withdrawal, money transfer, retrieving mini statement, etc. But how these services are implemented, that is abstracted to us. This is also another example of abstraction. Now take another real-time example of your TV remote. The TV remote has a different functions, like you can on or off the TV, right? You can change your channel, you can increase or decreasing in your volume, right? So all these things are nothing but one functionality or one services that is provided as part of the TV remote. You can use this functionality just by pressing the respective button. But do you have any idea the internal mechanism they have implemented behind the scene? Whenever you are pressing the on or off button, or whenever you are pressing the channel up or down or volume increase or decrease button, right? Do you have any idea what logic they have written behind the scene? No, we do not have any idea. So these things are not needed to know by the user. Na? So this is they are hidden from the user. This is nothing but another example of abstraction, right? Or you can also take another example by sending SMS from your mobile. So from your mobile, you just type the text, you just put the mobile number, and you just click the send button. But behind the scene, how this message delivery system is working, right? Once you send the message is received to the sender, right? But what logic they have written behind the scene? How it is possible that I am typing something, I am providing the number and clicking the send button, and the send information and what information I have typed, that is reached to the sender. Sorry, that is to reach to the receiver, right? So this information is not known to us, na? But behind the scene, they have written some logic, they have written some code, they are processing some internal operation, they are doing some internal operation, right? All these things are hidden to us because as a user, we do not have to know all these things, right? What we have to know? We have to know the services. As part of the mobile phone, they are provided one services called you can send SMS. That's it. But how that SMS send operation or functionality is implemented behind the scene, that is not known to us. This is also another example of abstraction. So in simple word, we can say that abstraction means provide the necessary details to use the services or functionalities. But how the services are implemented internally, that we need to hide. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll see some of the example. First of all, we'll see one example without following the abstraction principle. Then we'll see what is the problem, and then we'll see what are the different mechanisms available in CSharp.net to implement the abstraction principle. Right. So we are going to develop one application for bank. Right. So one real-time application scenario I'm taking. We are going to develop one application for bank, right? Banking. So basically, we need to develop one application to provide the banking functionality. So as part of this application, what are the services we want to provide? We want to provide the services for validating the card, for withdrawing money, for check balance, and for bank transfer, and for mini statement. So we need to develop one application for two bank, for SBI Bank and for Axis Bank, right? And both the bank are going to be provide the same functionality, right? So what we'll do, we will create one class called SBI. As part of this class, we will provide this 5 method implementation, right? And the user of our SBI bank will create an SBI bank object, and they can invoke this method. And we will do the same thing with using Axis Bank. So Axis Bank, we are going to also provide the implementation for this 5 method. Then from the other classes or from the user, you can say, we'll create an instance of the Axis Bank and we'll invoke this method. So here, the other classes of the user is nothing but your main method of the program class, right? So let me copy this code into Visual Studio and I will explain you the things. All right. So you can see, okay. So this is my class SBI. So you can consider this SBI bank is there, right? And this is your Axis Bank, right? In Axis Bank, you are also implementing bank transfer, check balance, mini statement, validate card, and withdraw money. I'm just writing the message: Axis Bank, bank transfer, Axis Bank, check balance, mini statement, validate card, and withdraw money. So these are the 5 operations, or you can services I'm providing as part of the Axis Bank. And the same services I'm also providing as part of the SBI class, right? So this is SBI. You can say all these 5 methods are also implemented as part of your SBI class, right? So so this is nothing but your ATM machine you can consider, right? Let me give the name as also ATM machine, right? In ATM machine, you have different kind of card, right? You can insert SBI card, you can insert Axis card. You suppose insert SBI card. So that means you are creating an instance of the SBI bank class. And after creating the instance, you can invoke all the methods or not. Yes, I can invoke the validate card, withdraw money, check balance, bank transfer, and mini statement. When I invoke this method by using this SBI instance, right? Then these 5 methods, what you have provided as part of SBI bank class, are going to be invoked, right? Similarly, if you are having Axis Bank card, you can enter the Axis Bank card. So one Axis Bank object is going to be created, and whatever operation you want, you can do, right? So this is nothing but how we can implement. Now, if you run the application, you will get the output as expected. First of all, you will see the SBI bank details or whatever the functionality we have written, those are going to print it, and then we can do transaction using the Axis Bank, right? That is absolutely fine. There is no issue. We are getting the output. That is fine. We are getting the output as expected. Then what is the problem in the above implementation? What is the problem in the above implementation? The problem is the user of our application accessing the Axis and SBI classes directly. Direct means they can go to the class definition and see the implementation details, right? Now this is the user. The user know I'm accessing the SBI class. The user know I'm accessing the Axis class. As the user know, the user can go to the definition and see the implementation, right? Now the user can see how you are implementing the bank transfer, how you are implementing the check balance, how you are implementing the mini statement, how you are implementing the withdraw money, how you are implementing the validate card. All this logic, what you have written, the user will able to know. Then what is the problem? If the user know, what is the problem? Do you have any idea whenever you are using ATM card, how the ATM functionality is implemented behind the scene? No. Why they have restricted this? Because of security, right? Because of the security means, do you think that if they are providing the information like what SQL statement they have written, what is the database they have using, where the database is stored, where the application server is, right? Where the database server is, what business logic they have written. If all these things is known to a hacker, do you know what dangerous it will be? He will hack everything, man. That means we are losing the security functionality, right? So we should not expose anything, our implementation, to the user. The user should only know, yes, as part of this SBI, there is a bank transfer service is provided. But how that bank service is provided, how that bank service, implemented, that you should not expose to the user of your class. But here, as we are providing direct access to the SBI class, right, the user will be able to know all these things. Yeah, this is the logic they have written, as part of the bank transfer. That means here we are not only providing the services what are available as part of the SBI class, but we are also providing how the services are implemented. But according to abstraction, what it means? Abstraction means what are the services your class you should expose, but how the services that you should not expose, that you should hide. But here we are providing what are the services is available as part of the SBI class, but we are also providing how the services are implemented. That means here we are violating the now we understand what is the problem if we are not implementing or if we are not following the abstraction principle, right? Then what is the solution? Solution is we need to implement the abstraction principle, right? If this is the problem, this problem we are facing because we are not following the abstraction principle. That means what is the solution? Simply we need to follow the abstraction principle. How we can follow the abstraction principle, or how we can implement abstraction in CSharp? There are two ways. One is using interface, you can implement the abstraction principle, or by using abstract classes and abstract methods, you can implement abstraction principle, right? So going further in our upcoming session, we will discuss this thing in detail. We'll discuss what is interface, what is the difference between inheritance and interface, what are abstract classes, what are abstract methods, right? What is the difference between interface and abstract classes, right? What are the difference between abstract method and concrete methods, right? All these things we are going to cover in detail in our coming session, right? But now you just need to remember these are the mechanism, these interface and abstract classes provide us the mechanism to hide the implementation details, right? So you can see what are interface, what are abstract method and abstract classes, that we will discuss in our coming session. But for now, just you need to understand one thing: both interface and abstract classes and abstract method provide some mechanism to hide the implementation details by only exposing the services, right? If you use abstract class, interface, and abstract methods, then you will have the option to provide the services only, right? What are the services available that you can expose, but how these services are implemented, that you can hide, right? The user will only know what are the services or methods available as part of your interface or abstract classes, but how these services or how these methods are implemented, the user will never know, right? So in detail, we will discuss all this thing in detail, right, in our coming session. But for now, I will show you how using interface and abstract classes and abstract methods, we can implement abstraction principle, right? So let us first understand how to implement abstraction principle using interface. Then I will show you how to implement abstraction principle using abstract classes and abstract methods, right? So the point that you need to remember is using interface, we will achieve 100% abstraction. But using abstract class, you cannot, you can achieve 0 to 100% abstraction, right? So if you are using an interface, means 100% abstraction you can achieve. But if you are using abstract classes, then you can achieve 0 to 100% abstraction. That I will show you practically how we are achieving 100%, and how whenever we are using abstract classes and a method, how we are achieving 0 to 100% abstraction. That will show practical, right? So what we are going to do is, right? So we are what we are going to do is we are going to implement one interface, right? As part of that interface, we are going to provide what are the services available, right? And then we'll create the SBI and Axis Bank classes by implementing the interface, right? Now if you go to the implementation, these are your classes, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm creating an interface, right? As part of this interface, what I'm doing, I'm just declaring the signature, right? This is my interface. And as part of this interface, I'm providing the services. What are the services? These 5 are the services that I want to expose to the user, right? Now, what I need to do is I need to implement those services, right? Now, SBI class implement the services, right? Now Axis Bank also going to implement those services. So basically what I'm doing here, I'm making the inheritance relationship, right? This is nothing but your parent class, and this is nothing but your child class. So this parent class, in this case, it is an interface. Interface means it is providing only methods without implementation. You can say this is just a method declaration, right? This is another method declaration. This is method declaration. This is also method declaration. This is method declaration, right? So you can only declare the method as part of the interface. You cannot provide implementation as part of the interface. If you try, you will get some kind of error, right? So you can understand this, right? So you just declare the methods, and then these methods are going to be implemented by the child classes, right? So this is the method implementation. This is the another method implementation, right? So whatever declared in your interface, you are implementing those things in the child classes, and you are also doing the same thing. This Axis Bank also inherited from the iBank, so it is mandatory to provide implementation to the non-implemented method of the parent class. So in this case, iBank is the parent class. So in this case, it's an interface. This class having five unimplemented method. Now it is the responsibility of this child class, Axis Bank, to provide implementation. Now this is one implementation. This is second, third, fourth, and fifth. All the implementation are provided. Now, if you comment one method, then you will get some error. What error you will get? Yes, there is one method which is not implemented yet. What method? Now, withdraw money you have not implemented. You have to implement this, otherwise you cannot inherit it, right? So you have to implement. So all these things, see why it is mandatory, how to implement, what is inheritance, all these things we are going to discuss in detail, right? But for now, this is one of the mechanism to achieve abstraction. So you need to declare one interface. As part of the interface, whatever the operation or services you want, you can declare, and those operations are going to be implemented under the child classes. This is one child class, right? And this is another child class. Now from the user of your application, you will see that now from your user of your application, you don't want to expose this SBI class, right? You don't want to expose this Axis class, right? You only want to expose this iBank, right? Now the user doesn't know, is there any class called SBI? Is there any class called Axis? What you are exposing here, you want to consume the bank services, I'm exposing you the iBank interface. You can use this iBank, right? But you cannot create an instance of iBank, right? If you want to invoke this method, you need an instance of this SBI class, right? Then how you can do this? Now we need to provide some mechanism to return some instances, right? So you can see here I'm putting some code. So this is just a bank factory. You can stay, and this bank factory having one static method, right? And that static method will take the bank type as a parameter, right? Then it is checking if bank type, if user can call this method directly, right? It's a static method. User can call this method using this class name because it's a static method, right? And user call this method. What he is passing? He is passing SBI. So what you need to create? You need to create an instance of the SBI class, and you are returning that instance through the parent class reference variable. So this is your parent class. Parent class can hold the child class instance. So you can see this is your parent class reference variable, and this reference variable can hold the child class reference. All these things we are going to discuss today, right? After this abstraction principle, we are going to discuss inheritance. In inheritance, you will understand what is the meaning of this reference variable, how a parent class reference variable can hold the child class instance. All these things we will discuss, right? But for now, suppose user want to suppose user enter the SBI card, then you need to call this method by passing SBI. Once you call this method by passing SBI, then it will check if bank type equals to SBI, condition satisfied. You need to create an instance of SBI. You need to store that instance inside this iBank, I mean that parent reference variable, and you need to return that. If the user pass something called Axis, then you need to create an instance of Axis Bank, and you need to return that instance through the parent reference variable, right? So once you got the reference, right, then on that reference you can call all these 5 methods, right? And based on the instances, that particular method is going to be execute, right? Right. So now from the bank, now from your user class, I don't know, is there any class called SBI, or I do not know, is there any class called Axis, right? So I don't know all these things. Then what I need to do? So what you need to do means you need to create one bank variable, IBank class variable, and then there is a method now bank factory dot get bank object, right? What kind of bank object you need? You enter the SBI card, just pass SBI. Then you can call this like, right? Again you need the again you enter the Axis Bank, right? Then what you need to do? You need to call this get bank object by passing Axis, right? Again you can call these methods like this, right? So now if you look at the user of your classes of your bank class, so the user doesn't know is there any SBI or any Axis class exist. What user only know? User only know that IBank. Now if you check the definition, right? Where is the pick definition? There is some option called pick definition. Yeah, pick definition. Now if you check the definition, then you will only know this thing. Yeah, these are the 5 services they have provided as part of the bank service, right? But do you have any idea how these methods are implemented? No, I do not have any idea, right? But I can invoke. But whenever you invoke this validate card based on the return object, right? If you are passing SBI means this variable is going to hold the SBI class object. Then whenever you call this method, then that method is going to be executed from here only, right? So in this way, you can achieve abstraction in CSharp. Now, if you run the application, you will see what output you got in our previous example. You will get the same output. There is no difference in the output. Sure. Why I'm getting this error? Can anybody tell me? Why this error? Can anybody tell me why I'm getting this error? See, here what I'm passing? AXIS. Yes or no? Guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it should be AXIX.
Yes. In this case, do you have any logic written for AXIS? No.
No.
In this case, this bank object is null or not? Because we have not assigned any instance now. So what we initialize null. That means this bank object, what we return from this method is null. And on the null object, whenever you are trying to access any property, any method, any variable, then you will get this null reference exception, right? So you can see you are getting null reference exception. Null reference exception, whenever you are getting means you are calling on the object that is assigned with null. You can see bank is null. Null means you are calling any method or any properties on null value, then you will get this null reference exception. Then what we need to do? We need to change this one, right? We need to pass Axis from here, right? So now if you run the application, then you will get the output as expected. Yes, you are getting the output. So in this case, the user of our class doesn't know is there any SBI class is written, doesn't know is there any Axis class is there, right? That means the implementation details the user will never come to know, because the user have no idea about the Axis bank, about the Axis class, about the SBI class. What the user know only about the IBank, right? If the user go to the definition of IBank, then he will only see these things. He will see these things mean only the method signature. What are the services as part available as part of this class, right? What are the services as part of this class, and what and also in this case we are implemented all the method with word and without parameter. If required, you can create method with parameter, right? That doesn't matter. But what he will be able to know what is the name of the method, what are the parameter this method taking, and what is the return type of the method. Only this thing the user will. Sorry?
ಯಾವಾಗ
right? So guys, you guys understand what is abstraction is all about? How you can implement abstraction?
Yes, sir. Like one doubt, like in the main method where we are using the interface,
Hmm.
so are we not able to access the classes at all, like bank and
See,
because we cannot.
you can access this, but the thing is that here, right? Here we are making this in a single application, right? So all this thing in a single application. But it might be possible that you can create this thing in a different class library project altogether. Yes or no? In this case,
Okay.
I'm putting everything in a single class file. It's possible that you can create these things in a different class library project, right? In a different class library project, and in that class library project, what you can do, you can make this class as public, you can make this as public, and you will make this as internal, right? Once you make this class as internal, then you cannot access that from a different assembly. That what we have already discussed in our access specifier session, right? And the second thing is that we are not telling, see, if you are not telling what are the classes available, then how the user will able to know what are the classes, whether you define SBI or whether you define Axis or any ICICI, yeah, any XYZ classes, how the user will able to know? You need to tell only, na? If you are not telling, then how can I know what are the classes you defined in your application? What you are telling now, you are telling, yes, iBank is there, bank factory is there, all this bank factory method, bypassing whatever instance you require. In this case, I'm writing SBI. It doesn't mean it's always going to be SBI, right? You can give any name, right? Based on your logic, you can suppose I'm writing SBI bank here. That is also fine. Na? What I can do is I can write like this SBI bank object. Right here, I can write Axis Bank, right? So it's now completely depend on us. So Axis Bank. So what I can do here, I can write Axis Bank. If you are getting confused, if I'm telling SBI, then it is SBI class. No, it's not like that. So now, if you are not telling, then how the user will able to know? What you are telling? What are the services available? I'm telling, hey, Mr. User, I'm providing the services. You want to know what are the services? Go to the IBank definition. If you go to the IBank definition, then you will able to know what are the services I'm providing. But how I'm implementing these services, that I am not going to tell you, right? If you want to consume the services, yes, you can consume. How you can consume? Just call this method on the bank factory object and provide SBI. If you want to consume the SBI bank services, then you need to call this method by passing SBI. You want Axis Bank services, you need to call this method by passing Axis Bank. You need ICICI Bank services, you need to call this method by passing ICICI, right? And then you can call all this method, you will get the services. But how the services are implemented, I will never, right? The second approach that we can use is abstract method and abstract classes, right? This is same as interface. Um, this is same as interface, but there is some little bit different between interface and abstract classes and abstract methods, right? So first of all, so this is the so now previously I make this as interface. Now I'm making this as abstract, right? You can see I'm creating this class using abstract. So previously I have written this. Okay, previously I have written interface, so that will become one interface, right? Now I'm not using interface, I'm writing abstract class. So this event now becomes an abstract class. As part of the abstract class, you can define abstract method as well as non-abstract method. I'm not going to be in detail related to abstract method, right? So what is abstract method, what is concrete method, is it mandatory to define all the method as abstract method, is it possible to define some concrete method as part of the abstract class? Everything we will discuss in detail in our abstract classes, but for now what I'm doing, I'm just making all the method as abstract method, right? How you can make a method as abstract? By declaring the method with the abstract modifier, right? So the point that you need to remember is, if you want to override one method, then you need to declare the parent class method as virtual, that we have discussed in one of our sessions, right? Whenever we are overriding the equals method, toString method, at that time I have explained to you, if you want to override one method in the child classes, then you need to declare the parent class method as virtual. The same way, if you are declaring the parent class method as abstract, then in the child class, you need to override the method by using the same override modifier, right? So you can see this is the SBI class. This is implemented from the iBank abstract class, and here I'm overriding this bank transfer method by using the override modifier, right? The same thing. Now, don't go with this abstract classes, abstract class method implementation in details. Just go with this implementation logic, right? So here I'm having the access class implementing this IBAN. Now, in this IBAN class, how many unimplemented methods are there? You need to provide implementation. So now all the methods are unimplemented only, means you need to provide implementation to all these 5 methods, right? So you have to provide implementation to all these 5 methods. So whenever I'm saying unimplemented method, means the method is ended with a semicolon, the method without body. You can say unimplemented method or abstract method means method without a body. So you can see all the methods are without body. Method without body means you need to provide implementation or you need to provide body to all this method. Then where you will provide the body? In the child classes only. Whoever implement this iBank abstract class, that class has the responsibility to provide implementation to all these 5 methods. Now, this SBI class implement this iBank abstract class. Then it is the responsibility of the SBI bank to provide implementation to all these methods. It is the responsibility of Axis Bank to provide implementation to all these methods. Now from the now all the rest of the logic are going to be same. This is your bank factory which is going to return the respective class instance, right? And from this class, what I'm doing, I'm creating iBank, SBI, iBank, Axis, right? And even though if you create like this bank, then it is also fine, right? You can write like this, no issue, right? And even you can also reuse the same thing like this, right? So you can also reuse like this. Now the user will able to know only the IBAN. He doesn't know how this method are implemented in the child classes. Now if you run the application, you will get the output as expected. See, this is as expected, right? Now, one point I have mentioned in the beginning, using abstract class, we can achieve 0 to 100% in abstraction. How? Now see, providing implementation is not mandatory in abstract class. Even if you want, you can provide implementation to some of the method now. Right? Here what I'm doing, I'm declaring this method as non-abstract, right? It is also possible now. So what I'm going to do, I'm just commenting this one. I'm commenting this one, right? Now in this case, yes, now in this case, you can see this method is implemented inside the abstract class also. That means now if the user check the IPAC class definition, then he will come to know the implementation details of this method, right? And even you can provide implementation to all the method. That is not mandatory, right? So it is possible that you can provide implementation to the abstract to the methods inside the abstract class. So if you are providing implementation, then the user will come to know how the method is implemented. If you are providing implementation to one method, and if you are not providing implementation to rest 4 methods, that means 80% abstraction you are achieving, right? If you are providing if you are abstracting all the methods, right, then that means what? Now it means you are achieving 100% abstraction. Now, if you are providing body to all these methods, then you are achieving 0 abstraction. That means all the implementation are provided in the Python. So using abstract class, we can achieve 0 to 100% abstraction. Is that clear? Guys?
Yes.
Is that clear? Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. So using abstract class, we can achieve 0 to 100% abstraction. The reason is you can also provide implementation to the methods inside the abstract class. It doesn't matter whether you implement all method or none of the method inside the abstract class. This allowed, okay, this is allowed, which is not possible with interface. In interface, you cannot provide implementation. For example, this is going to be my interface. Let me declare this one, right? And here I can also provide implementation, but in interface you cannot use the abstract class keyword. Why? Because by default they are going to be abstract. You cannot use the abstract keyword anymore, right? So you can see in interface, if I'm trying to provide implementation, then I'm getting this error, right? The modifier public is not allowed, and you will get some kind of a error. Interface method cannot have a definition, right? So this is not possible with interface. Okay. So, but this is possible with abstract class. Now it is one of the important question which you might be faced in the interview. What is the difference between encapsulation and abstraction in C# or any programming languages, right? Let us understand. Encapsulation principle is all about data hiding or information hiding, right? In encapsulation, what exactly we are doing? We are declaring the data member as private. Once you declare the data member as private, then from outside the world or from outside of the class, you cannot access the data, right, directly. This is nothing but your data hiding, or you can say information hiding. On the other hand, abstraction principle is all about detailed hiding. Detailed hiding means implementation hiding. How the method is implemented, that is your hiding, right? Using encapsulation principle, we can protect our data from outside the class. Nobody can access the data directly. If you declare some data member as private, then you cannot access the data from outside the class. That means we are protecting our data. We are exposing the data only through publicly exposed method and properties. That is true by doing some kind of a validation, right? The advantage is that we can validate the data before storing and returning, right? If you are using encapsulation principle, then before storing the data into the variable or before accessing the data from the variable, you can validate the data, right? That is the advantages of encapsulation. On the other hand, using abstraction principle, we are exposing only the services. Using abstraction principle, we are exposing only the services to the user who can consume the services, right? But how the services or methods are implemented, that is hidden from the user. The user will never know how the method is implemented. That is what we have already just discussed. With the encapsulation principle, we group data members and member function into a single unit called class, interface, and enum. On the other hand, with the abstraction principle, we are exposing the interface or abstract class to the user and hiding the implementation details. That is hiding the child class information, right? We are hiding the child class information. And in encapsulation, we are grouping the data member and member function together into a single unit, right? That unit might be a class, interface, and enum, etc. On the other hand, with abstraction, what we are exposing the interface or abstract class, right? Interface, we are exposing interface or abstract class means what? Now we are exposing the services. What are the services available as part of the interface and abstract class? But we are hiding the implementation details, right? Hiding the child class information. Hiding the child class information means what? How these services are implemented under the child class. That is what we are hiding with the abstraction principle. We can implement encapsulation by declaring the data member as private and exposing the data member through public methods and properties with proper validation. That is what we have discussed yesterday. So you have to declare the data member as private. You need to declare a public setter and getter method. Setter method which is going to set the value. Getter method is going to get the value. Even you can also write properties with set accessor and get accessor, right? And as part of the accessor, you can also write the validation logic as per your business requirement. On the other hand, we can implement abstraction through abstract classes and interface that we have already just seen, right? Abstraction in C# is used to hide unwanted data and shows only the required properties and methods to the user, right? So what information, what properties, and what method you declared in your interface, that are only going to expose to the user. right? What information, how the method is implemented, right, inside the child class, how you use the properties inside the child classes. All those things are going to be hidden into the additional external world, right? That is nothing but abstraction. In encapsulation, the encapsulation is used to bind the data member function into a single unit to prevent outsider from accessing it directly, right? So once you encapsulate the data member and member function inside a class, then from outside class, we cannot access those data member directly. If you want to access, you need to create an instance. And once you create an instance, then you can access the public or those who are exposed, only those member you can access. You cannot access the private data, right? This is what you need to explain in the interview if someone asks you the question, what is the difference between abstraction and the encapsulation? Now, what are the advantages of using abstraction principle? Abstraction principle reduces the complexity of viewing things, right? It only provides the method signature by hiding how the method is actually implemented, right? The complexity means how the method is implemented, that you are not showing, that you are not giving to the user, right? You only showing the method signature, right? But how the method is implemented, that you are hidden to the user. Abstraction principle helps to increase the security of an application or program, as we are only providing necessary details to call the method by hiding the method or how the method are actually implemented. See, if you are giving the implementation details, then the user will able to know how the logic you are implemented, what are the server you are using, what are the SQL statement you are using, how you are writing the business logic. All these things the user will able to know, right? The user will able to know means there is a security issue. But with the abstraction principle, we are not providing any information like this to the user, right? With the abstraction principle, the enhancement will become very easy because without affecting the end user, we can able to perform any type of changes in our system. See, currently our system having this method, right? Interface, right? So without affecting the user, whatever changes you want, you can do inside this class. You can do inside this method. Even you can create a new class by inheriting the IPAC that will not affect the user. User or how the operation is performing is going to perform. But behind the scene, you can do changes to the existing classes, existing code. Even you can also add new classes by inheriting from the IPAC, right? This is what enhancement is very easy. Without abstraction principle, maintaining application code is very complex. Abstraction gives you one structure to the program, right? If you are following the abstraction principle, one structure is there. What is structure? First of all, you need to create an interface. Then you need to create a class which is going to return the interface, return the child class object through the interface. Then you need to create child classes by implementing the interface. And while you are implementing the interface, you need to provide implementation to all the interface methods or all the unimplemented abstract class method, right? And if you are missing anything, if you are misspell the name, or if you are missing any interface method implementation, then compiler will give you the warning. That means with the abstraction principle, our program is going to be a systematic manner. There is a proper structure of your program, right? That is what I'm mentioning here, right? So this is all about abstraction principle.